Do you feel you know the unfabricated Black history? Chances are that you know the Black historic facts told widely on every forum, which are often tempered. Even in some cases, Black history is twisted to bury the Black glory and struggles for freedom and rights. This might seem minor, but it creates a devastating effect, changing the very identity of the future Black generations. Therefore, you should know the Black history facts that are least, or known differently, by Black Africans. For example, changing the year of the first ever protest against slavery from 1688 to the late 19th century changes everything and makes the Black struggle a new phenomenon. Welcome to a new episode of Black Culture Diary, a channel where we talk about less known and hidden Black history, culture, arts, and lost civilization. We scrutinize history here to bring the Black culture back on the surface again. We encourage you to join our community in supporting and building a strong Black history education medium. In this episode, we will tell how the 10 Black history facts that are least known by Black Africans. Let's get started. Number 10. Interracial marriage in the United States was banned in 1664 and not made legal until 1967. During the 17th and early 18th centuries, the increasing number of unions between Black and white individuals led to the enactment of anti-miscegenation laws. The first anti-miscegenation law was passed in the colony of Maryland in 1664, followed by other colonies implementing similar laws. These laws prohibited interracial marriages, and the consequences ranged from enslavement and exile to imprisonment for white individuals engaged in such unions. Over time, these laws evolved, and there were even attempts to amend the Constitution to impose a nationwide ban on interracial marriage. It took 300 years for this ban to be overturned. In 1967, the Supreme Court ruled in the case of Loving versus Virginia, siding with Richard Loving, a white man, and Mildred Jeter, a Black woman. The Lovings had married in the District of Columbia, but faced arrest and conviction upon returning to Virginia, where interracial marriage was still illegal. The Supreme Court's decision declared that prohibiting interracial marriage on state and local levels was unconstitutional. This groundbreaking ruling meant that marriages between individuals of different races became legally recognized in the United States for the first time since 1664. Number 9. Unlike stories in famous novels and movies, 1 in 4 Cowboys was Black and Wild West Civil War regiments. Bass Reeves, an African-American man who had escaped slavery during the Civil War, is believed to have inspired the character of the Lone Ranger. If you don't know Lone Ranger, he was a fictional character shown in comics and movies who would dress like a cowboy. Reeves went on to become a deputy U.S. Marshal in Indian Territory, which is present-day Oklahoma. He possessed exceptional skills in disguise and marksmanship and rode a silver horse, reminiscent of a character from a Quentin Tarantino film. In the 19th century, the Wild West attracted formerly enslaved Africans seeking freedom and better opportunities after the Civil War. African Americans accounted for at least a quarter of the legendary cowboys during this era. They confronted various dangers, including harsh weather, rattlesnakes, and outlaws while driving cattle herds to the market. Number 8. The earliest protest against slavery was done by Quakers in 1688. The Quakers, also known as the Society of Friends, have a long-standing commitment to the abolition of slavery. In 1688, they initiated the earliest known protest against slavery. 4 Quakers, including Francis Daniel Pastorius, a young German attorney residing in Germantown, Pennsylvania, drafted a document on behalf of the Germantown meeting of the Religious Society of Friends. Their aim was to raise awareness among fellow Quakers about the issue of slavery. The Quakers firmly believed in the Golden Rule, advocating for the fair and humane treatment of all individuals, regardless of their skin color. They argued that people should treat others as they would like to be treated themselves. In their protest, they posed the question of what could be worse than being robbed, forcibly taken away, and sold as slaves in foreign lands where families were torn apart. Before we continue further, tell us, are you enjoying the video? If yes, please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black culture, history, civilization, and identity. Let's continue now. Number 7. Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech was made and delivered on the spot. On August 28, 1963, during the March on Washington, 250,000 Americans gathered at the Lincoln Memorial to witness the culmination of the event. As Martin Luther King Jr. stood at the podium, he decided to push his prepared notes aside. The night before the march, Dr. King had been working on his speech with a small group of advisors at the Willard Hotel lobby. The original speech focused more on political aspects and lacked the historic references and the famous dream segment. However, as he delivered the line, "No, we are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream," Dr. King transformed his speech into a powerful sermon. Mahalia Jackson, a prominent gospel singer who stood nearby, reportedly kept urging Dr. King, saying, "Tell him about the dream, Martin." Although it is uncertain if he directly heard her, her words likely served as the inspiration he needed. Dr. King continued, declaring, "So even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream." Number 6. Of the 12.5 million Africans shipped during the transatlantic slave trade, less than 388,000 arrived in the United States. The transatlantic slave trade emerged in the late 15th century as advancements in seafaring technology connected West Africa with Europe and the Americas. This trade route facilitated the transportation of over 12 million enslaved Africans globally. However, the majority of enslaved Africans, approximately 10.7 million, did not end up in the United States. Instead, Brazil received the largest number, with around 4.9 million enslaved Africans arriving there. Don't forget that Brazil was the last country to abolish slavery, achieving this milestone in 1888. By the time the United States became involved in the slave trade, it had already been ongoing for 2 centuries. The majority of the 388,000 enslaved Africans who arrived in the United States did so between 1700 and 1866. Number 5. Vaccination was introduced to America by an enslaved African. Vaccination is a process by which immunity against future diseases can be developed. Interestingly, America did not know about vaccination until a black slave named Onesimus introduced it. While limited details are available about Onesimus's birth, it is believed that he was born in Africa during the late 17th century and brought to Boston, Massachusetts, as part of the African Diaspora. Onesimus was given as a gift to Cotton Mather, a prominent Puritan minister and a key figure in early American history, by his congregation in 1706. He shared with Mather the traditional African practice of vaccination that had been in existence for centuries. This involved extracting material from an infected person and introducing it into the skin of an unaffected person, intentionally causing a smallpox infection to confer immunity. Cotton Mather persuaded Dr. Zabdiel Boylston to carry out this procedure when a smallpox epidemic struck Boston in 1721. Despite facing political, religious, and medical opposition in the United States and abroad, over 240 people were successfully inoculated. Records indicate that the mortality rate among the inoculated patients was only 2% compared to 15% among those who contracted smallpox without being inoculated. Number 4. Historically, black colleges and universities rescued Jewish refugees. When it comes to historically black colleges and universities, or HBCUs, there is a lesser-known chapter in their history involving Jewish academics from Germany and Austria during the 1930s. These Jewish professors, facing dismissal from their teaching positions due to rising anti-Semitism, sought employment in the United States during the Great Depression. Despite encountering challenges in finding work, more than 50 Jewish academics found positions at HBCUs in the segregated South. Originally established to educate freed enslaved Africans, HBCUs had grown to 78 institutions by the time Jewish professionals arrived. The shared experiences of persecution fostered a comfortable and accepting environment for Jewish professors at these black colleges. They even often developed special programs that encouraged meaningful conversations between black and white students. While the interests of Jewish and African American communities would later diverge, this shared experience of discrimination and interracial cooperation remains an important part of the civil rights movement. Number 3. The first licensed African American female pilot was Bessie Coleman. Born in Atlanta, Texas in 1892, Bessie Coleman faced a life marked by poverty, discrimination, and segregation. At the age of 23, she relocated to Chicago in search of better opportunities, but encountered limited prospects there as well. Inspired by the stories of aviators during World War I, Coleman developed a deep interest in aviation. However, as an African American woman, she faced the dual challenges of racial and gender discrimination. Undeterred, Coleman set her sights on France and began studying French in 1920, determined to pursue her dreams. With financial support from Robert Abbott, one of the first African-American millionaires, Coleman made the journey across the Atlantic and embarked on the path of learning to fly. In June 1921, she obtained her international pilot's license from the Fédération Aéronautique Internationale, becoming the first African-American woman to achieve this feat. Number 2. Claudette Colvin first rose against discrimination in buses. Earlier, discrimination was a norm, and black people had to sit at the back of the bus, leaving the front seats for white Americans. But a 15-year-old girl challenged this. While many people believe Rosa Parks was the first to refuse to give up her bus seat in Montgomery, several women, including Claudette Colvin, took a stand before her. On March 2, 1955, Claudette, a brave 15-year-old schoolgirl, refused to move to the back of the bus. This act of defiance occurred 9 months prior to Rosa Parks' historic action that sparked the Montgomery bus boycott. Claudette had been learning about influential black leaders like Harriet Tubman in her segregated school, and these discussions led to conversations about the oppressive Jim Crow laws they all faced. When the bus driver demanded Claudette to leave her seat, she steadfastly refused. She later described the moment as if Sojourner Truth was on one side pushing her down and Harriet Tubman was on the other side pushing her down. She couldn't bring herself to surrender. Claudette's bravery extended beyond that moment. Her determination to fight for her people led to her arrest and imprisonment. She was one of 4 women who challenged segregation laws in court, contributing to the landmark Browder v. Gale case, which successfully overturned bus segregation laws in Montgomery and the entire state of Alabama. Sadly, despite her significant role, Claudette's story has often been overlooked. Number 1. Esther Jones was the real Betty Boop. Esther Jones, known as Baby Esther, was a talented black jazz singer who played a significant role in inspiring the creation of the beloved cartoon character Betty Boop. Introduced by cartoonist Max Fleischer in 1930, Betty Boop became an iconic figure of the jazz age, renowned for her alluring attire, curvaceous figure, and unique vocalizations. During the 1920s, Esther Jones regularly performed at the famous Cotton Club, captivating audiences with her distinctive vocal style that incorporated playful boops and childlike sounds. Her performances caught the attention of Helen Kane, a popular singer of that era, who later adopted a similar style in her own acts after witnessing Baby Esther on stage. When Betty Boop made her debut, Helen Kane quickly filed a lawsuit against Max Fleischer and Paramount Pictures, claiming that they had used her image and style without permission. However, video evidence emerged showing Baby Esther performing in a nightclub, proving that her baby-like vocals had predated Helen Kane's adoption of them. Did you earlier know these Black history facts? Did you learn the real history or the changed forms of these facts? Let us know in the comments section right below. What if most part of the Black history you know about is the tempered version? Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: the Black culture, civilization, history, and evidence about how glorious Blacks have been. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.